absurd squats and jerks, the Danish women go ham, and the return of the Weightlifting House calendar. Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of the Weightlifting House news show, the only weightlifting news show in the world. Now, before I show you guys about this magnificent thing, I need to remind you all about these magnificent things. The exclusive patron-only order period is now over, so if you want a pair of Velasquez and you live in Europe, or you want a pair of the American weightlifting shoes and you live in the USA, you can now do that just through the Weightlifting House stores, either the USA store or the European store. We have free shipping with these all around Europe. We have a discounted price beyond anything anywhere else in the world, even including the USA. And with the American weightlifting shoes, these are just $120. 75% of all of the proceeds, of all of the turnover, goes to Glenn's mum to help pay off the medical bills that she still has to go through after Glenn's passing last year. So last year we released the Weightlifting House calendar, and we did it just as a sort of way to promote the book, The Greatest Weightlifters of All Time. We had photos just of the men because that book, the volume 1, only features men, and all of the athletes other than Lasher were from 30, 40 years ago. This year we have modern lifters, 6 of the best male lifters, 6 of the best female lifters, all in incredible poses from the World Championships. Free shipping and with some of the most spectacular high-definition photos of all of your favorite lifters. So if you want to be reminded of Jeong power cleaning 190 kilos on his opening attempt to win the World Championships, the greatest flex in weightlifting history, or Kate Nye snatching 112 kilos to win the gold medal in the snatch and then at some point in the total, then head over to the Weightlifting House store and pick up a copy of the Weightlifting House 2021 calendar. Alright, let's get into the show. We're going to kick things off in Africa, in Ghana, with a weightlifter who trains in London in the UK. It's my friend, 89 kilos / 96 when he doesn't want to cut, Forrester Osei. So the most that we've seen from Forrester in the clean and jerk, I mean, he's known for his ridiculous back squats. He did a pause. It was more like a double or triple bounce back squat at 305 kilos a year or so ago. The most we've seen from him in the clean and jerk is 181 kilos. And he's hit this 3 times in his 6 qualifying competitions for the Olympics. Interestingly enough, another 2 of those times was 180 kilos. So his consistency at that just slightly under 400 pound mark is incredible. Well, this week he posted a video of a 170 kilo 2+1, which is actually pretty solid for Forrester. He has an issue with his front rack position. I know he's got more in him, but his forearms are too short, his neck is too thick. I don't know exactly what it is, but he gets choked out hard. So for him to be hitting 170 for a 2+1 at this point in his kind of comeback after having taken some time off is really exciting. Okay, so I want to move over now to Australia for one of the most incredibly strong athletes in the world. At 21 years of age, Charisma Amotorant just squatted 215 kilos for a set of 5. Now, I want to say that again. She squatted 215 kilos for 5 reps. Now, this is just absolutely insane. And I want to weigh her up against one of the other strongest young weightlifters in the world. We're going to head over to South Korea and compare her to Park Jeong, who I've mentioned a few times, the youth world record holder, who is just 17 years old, which makes this all the more insane. So from Australia, Charisma Amotorant just hit 215 kilos for a set of 5. Park Jeong at 17 just posted a video hitting what I can only assume is a PR, at least I hope for all of our sakes, all of our egos, that this is a PR single and that she hasn't hit more in the past. 260 kilos in the back squat. Now this was after a set of 7 at 210 kilos. Now let that sink in for a moment. As well as this, despite her youth world record in the snatch being 110 kilos, she also posted videos of 115 kilo snatch double off blocks, and to add salt to the wound, 120 kilos for a double off the blocks also. So really, I just want to highlight these 2 athletes, Park Jeong and Charisma Amotorant, just for being some of the most exceptionally strong athletes in the world. Now, talking about some of the freakiest strength athletes in the world, we're going to move just from Australia now to New Zealand for one of my favourite weightlifters, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. We have David Liti. Now, David, the super heavyweight, just squatted 300 kilos for a 3x3, which is incredible, and he moved them very fast. But he did this in preparation for the national championships. Now, before I tell you what he hit at these national championships, let's again do a little bit of a comparison. We did Charisma versus Park Jeong. Now we're going to do David Liti versus Nooh Dastgir from Pakistan. David hit 300 kilos for a 3x3, and Dastgir just hit 300 kilos also for a set of 3, but just one set. Comparing these two athletes does very little, but I find it interesting. I like seeing lifters lift side by side just to work out who's the strongest in various accessories, so hopefully you guys do too. So after he hit this 300 kilos 3x3, David then went on to compete at the National Championships in New Zealand. He ended up hitting a 5 kilo qualifying Olympic competition PR, so 5 kilos more than he's hit in any of the Olympic qualifiers in the snatch at 182 kilos. That's 400 pounds finally. And then he hit a new PR in the clean and jerk too, 232 kilos. That's 1 kilo more than the 231 that he hit at the Qatar Cup last year, December 2019. So altogether, this was a sensational performance for him. 182, 232, that's a 414 total. Amazing lifting for David Liti. Over to China now, and it is once again the battle of the Loos. We're going to kick off with the first Loo, the original Loo, the GOAT Loo, Loo Xiaojun. So we saw a few training lists from Loo this week. 100 kilo dumbbell rows, yes, 100 kilos, single arm dumbbell rows, which is insane. And a lot of you are going to say, well, that's not a strict row, and it's not a strict row, and the Chinese do not profess to do strict rows. They do these Chinese rows, and the reason they do them is because they believe, and quite rightly so, there's good reason to believe this, that at no point in weightlifting does one muscle move out of sync with any other muscle group. In a snatch, no single muscle group does something without another muscle group acting to either help create momentum or stabilize. And so when they do things like rows, or when they do pull-ups or dips, they use all of the rest of their body to try and help assist in that movement. Hence, when he does this 100 kilo dumbbell row, he uses his lower back, he twists, he uses his legs to some extent, because nothing works independently from anything else in weightlifting. We then saw Lou hit 240 kilos in the back squat for a double, which is nothing particularly special, a 190 kilo clean and jerk, which is getting on to be a little bit more special, right around that 90% mark for Lou. But then, most interestingly, most excitingly, this is the kind of thing that makes me as a fan really pleased, is he dropped a little Easter egg, if you know what those are, during his snatch of 160 kilos. Now, Jeong is known for saying "Wo Chow" when he lifts, which translates as "f**k" or "I f**k," which is kind of hysterical that he just says that when he lifts. I've never heard Lou Xiaojun say that, and he didn't quite say that. He had a little bit of an extra, he had an adjunct at the end, so instead of Wo Chow, he said, Wo Chow Ni Ma De, which means, f**k your mother. Now this is just funny to me, the fact that we have this guy who seems so stoic when he competes. He takes defeat incredibly well. When he wins, he celebrates and everybody gets behind him. And then in training with this simple 160 kilo snatch, when we catch him not in the public eye, not in front of everyone, we hear him say, Wo Chow Ni Ma De, aka, f**k your mother. I actually commented on the video because I thought I heard a hushed whisper of a Wo Chow after he said it. And I got confirmation from the Squat Junk journalist that he added this Ni Ma De at the end, which I suppose just specifies in many ways who it is that he plans on. Jeong leaves it open, perhaps an invite to anyone, whereas Lou Xiaojun specifies that it is going to be your mother who he ends up f***ing. Okay, let's move over to a slightly more PC Lou. It's just Lou Delin, and he posted a video of a 170 kilo snatch. Once again, just looking incredibly smooth, incredibly calm and confident with this weight. And then just before I recorded this video, he hit a 170 kilo snatch double off blocks, which is interesting for a few reasons. One, it's interesting because it's a 170 kilo double. Sorry, my laptop almost turned off there. Which is just an amazing lift. I mean, it's 3 kilos below the world record. But two, we almost never see the Chinese go off blocks. They do a fair amount from the hang, though, again, not the most elite. We never see Lou Xiaojun, we never see Xi, we never see Tian really ever going from the hang, but far less do we see the Chinese team going from blocks. So this was particularly interesting to see how strong Lou Delin is from this above the knee position. Oh, and guys, I also forgot to mention, I should have put this in earlier, I just posted a video. It's a 30-minute reaction video from me and my boy Zach Tallender. We watched our favourite weightlifting videos, we watched the funniest, the best, and we recorded the whole thing, reacted to it. It was a whole lot of fun. That is up on the Weightlifting House Patreon page right now if you want to check it out. Now, from Ludelin's stanky leg lifting style of weightlifting, we're going to move over to one of the best technicians in the world. It is Hsing-chun. And she so rarely posts any videos, and if she does, it's always worth mentioning. I mentioned her last week, and this week, once again, she honours us with another video. This week, it's a 125 kilo clean and power jack. Now, the most we've ever seen her do, 142 kilos from... It was a competition it was in Taiwan, and I think it was maybe the University World Championships. It's 2017, she hit that 142. Since then, we've seen her hit 140, so this 125 is just a fraction under 90% of that 140, her recent kind of competition PR. And so for her to do that with the power jack, it was really exciting to see. The Japanese 109 kilo lifter Hiroaki Shiraishi hit 215 kilos in the clean and jerk. I believe that's something like, and it says on the post, so maybe you'll be able to see it here if I get it wrong. It's either 6 kilos under his personal best or 7 kilos under his personal best and 6 under the Japanese national record, something like that. You'll be able to see it here if you're watching on the YouTube channel. But still, a very confident, very easy looking 215 kilo lift with 2 angles of that same lift. Over in Qatar, and I kind of only just made this connection, is Meso Hassona. So we just saw Delin hit 170 for a double off blocks. Now we have Meso Hassona hitting 170 kilos for a double off blocks. Far more impressive, of course, for Delin, who did it 2 weight classes down at 81 instead of 96. But even so, equally, well, perhaps not equally as exciting, but similarly slightly less exciting to see Meso do it, but worth a mention nonetheless. I tell you what, I haven't watched these 2 lifts side by side. Perhaps they're playing on the screen now. Alex, in editing, perhaps you can play these 2 block snatch doubles side by side. Comment down below who does it best. And I don't mean who does it best in terms of in their weight category, because obviously Delin does it best in that sense. It's 3 kilos under the world record. For Meso, it's 16 kilos under the world record. But just who makes 170 for a double look easier? Comment down below and I'll take a look. Also, you know what, it's probably about time, and I totally forgot to mention this at the start, it's probably about time that I mentioned the fact that I just brought out the People's Coach t-shirt. Now, I'm an idiot, and I forgot to bring the t-shirt with me for this episode, but it's absolutely sensational. Glenn Pendley was instrumental to the growth at the start of Weightlifting House. I wrote a book about him, I'm helping sell off his shoes, and he was on probably 100 episodes of the Weightlifting House podcast. And so I just want to commemorate him one final time. I always called him the People's Coach. The number of athletes and fans that he helped, both in person and not through podcasts and that sort of thing, is absolutely insane. I called him the People's Coach for that reason. So if you want to buy a People's Coach t-shirt, we've got a couple of different colours. We've got men's sizing and women's sizing. You can get them all around the world. So I'll put a link to that down below, also along with the Weightlifting House calendar. Now, earlier in this episode, I mentioned big squats from David Liti from Nooh Dastgir. Now we have bigger squats, better squats, stronger squats, more squats from Mart Seim from Estonia. Now, Mart is obviously known for having hit 400 kilos in the back squat before. He's incredibly strong. In fact, he took a medal in the clean and jerk at the 2018 World Championships. He was injured in 2019. He hurt his pec, ridiculously benching 100 kilos, which is so light for him. I mean, the guy could strict press 150 for sets of 5. But finally, he's kind of coming back, and his leg strength, to nobody's surprise, is the first to return. So Mart Seim just posted a video of a 300 kilo back squat for a set of 8, which is basically David Liti's entire workout in one set. And to be honest, he probably could have done more. Now, when you put this into a 1 rep max calculator, it brings him out with a back squat of about 370 kilos. That's 800 pounds. And obviously, as we all know, the further you move away from the 1RM, the less accurate that kind of predictor becomes. But I'd say this is probably about right. He's not moving 300 like he did when he was a 400 kilo back squatter, but he's moving it pretty easily, and I wouldn't be surprised if you stuck... Gosh, how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 reds on each side of the bar. You'd probably see that he could squat that 370 kilos. Over in Turkey, Daniyar Ismayilov, the 67, 73 kilo weightlifter, I think we're going to call him a 73 because he's competed in that weight class a little bit more than he has in the 67s. He just posted a video of a 140 kilo snatch plus 3 hang snatches. Now, Daniyar is, perhaps you could call him a snatch specialist, but that kind of discredits how good his clean and jerk is too. At the Olympic Games, he actually won the snatch. He beat Jeong. He snatched 163 kilos with one of the most ridiculous saves of all time. I don't know if we can post that. We might get a claim on copyright, so it may not be there. But he is an incredible snatcher. So this 140 kilos for a snatch plus 3 hang snatches above the knee is just remarkable. In terms of Daniyar Ismayilov's likelihood of going to the Olympics, it all kind of comes down to the qualification procedures. Now, as you all know, you have to compete at least once in each of the 3 qualifying periods, 6 total competitions you have to at least take part in. And Daniyar Ismayilov, whilst he took part in 2 competitions in that first qualifying period, he bombed out in all of them. I mean, he's clearly good enough to make the Olympics. I mean, his 3 last competitions, he's got over 1,000 Roby points in each competition. Now, that's just totally ridiculous, but because he didn't compete in that first qualifying period, or at least he didn't get a total, he's in a very similar situation to Keanu Rostami. He's not looking like there's any way he's going to be able to qualify right now. But then, of course, as I'm actually going to go into a little bit later in this episode, if the powers that be at the IWF do a thing that they shouldn't do, and they end up changing the qualification process to favour a few other athletes who shall not be mentioned right now, they've been mentioned in previous podcasts and episodes, then it might be that someone like Daniyar Ismayilov or Keanu Rostami or even Surab Maradi can sneak their way in despite really perhaps not having supposed to. Denmark had their national championships and the women did absolutely incredibly. Now, I'm sure the men did too, but I just couldn't find videos of many guys lifting at the Danish championships. I follow most of the women already, mainly because I've met them all at competitions. I don't know many of the guys. Of course, my boy Omed Alam is from Denmark, but I couldn't see any footage of him lifting, and so I'm just going to have to go through the women. Sandra Jensen, who we've mentioned a few times on the podcast, maybe even last week too, she ended up taking the gold medal, winning the national championship. She went 5 for 6, 75 in the snatch, 93 in the clean and jerk. The 75 kilos is a decent lift for her. She has hit, I think, 81 kilos in training. We mentioned that a few weeks ago. But even so, she took the golds, and that's kind of all you can hope for. Next, we have the People's Viking, as I call her. She's been on the podcast before. She's a member of Team Cal Strength. We have Katrin Bruun, 55 kilo weightlifter. And once again, she won, and this is her 4th national championships. Absolute veteran of the sport over there in Denmark. And she did it without even performing particularly well. I couldn't work out exactly what she ended up hitting. She didn't want everybody to know. She just said that she hadn't lifted well. I know that in the clean and jerk, she hit what looked like 95 kilos. But that's a little bit off. I mean, I remember the World Championships last year. She was, around that 100 kilo mark in training, even a little bit over that. I think she even might have jerked something like 110 kilos, which is crazy. So a little bit down, but she's still the GOAT in Denmark, and so she was able to get the gold medals. Next, we have Amanda Poulsen, who I know that we mentioned a couple of weeks ago because she hit a ridiculous snatch balance. I think that was last week, maybe. And she just hit 85.102. She also swept with gold, taking that national title. And then lastly from Denmark, we have Louise Venekilde. She went 6 for 6, 95.115. She's also a member of Team Mash Mafia, as is Sandra Jensen, who I mentioned at the start, 49 kilo weightlifter. And so, I guess Team Mash Mafia, Team Cal Strength, doing pretty well in Denmark right now. Moving over to Italy, it's 49 kilo Giulio Imperio. She just hit 75 kilos for 2x2, so 2 doubles in the snatch. Now, this is actually already very impressive. In terms of the Olympic qualifying competitions, the most we ever saw from her was 77 kilos. So 75 for 2 doubles is ridiculous. She then posted a 92 kilo 2+1, 2 cleans, 1 jerk. That, again, 2 kilos more than we've seen her hit in any Olympic qualifying competition. So her progress since, I suppose, February has been really incredible. Julia has one of the best lockouts you're ever going to see. In terms of her lifting, she's absolutely mesmerising to watch. Technically amazing. And so, I mean, if you guys aren't following her, certainly I would recommend following Julia Imperio. Next, and heading over to Great Britain, the greatest of the Britons, we have Fraer Morrow, a weightlifting house fan herself, and she just hit some really ridiculously impressive lifts. I actually messaged Fraer at some point after she posted these lifts saying that I think she moves the best from anyone in Team GB, and I really think that. Maybe it's her gymnastics background, I'm not sure what it is, but she moves incredibly well. She just posted a video of an 85 kilo snatch and a 108 kilo clean and jerk. The height that she's able to, the lack of height that she's able to get on the bars and still make lifts is amazing. Her jerk's fantastic. That back knee, the lockout, I guess, probably it's just an awareness thing from gymnastics, but she's really sensational. She then posted a video of herself doing, it was like a handstand plus a splits, and she did it in front of the weightlifting house. What are these things called? flags. She did it in front of a weightlifting house flag, which I thought was really awesome. So I wanted to shout her out, not just for the 85-108, but also the fact that she's now lifting in front of the weightlifting house. This is a weightlifting house flag. Oh, and one other thing before I wrap up on Fraer Morrow. She watched last week's episode of the news show and she saw everyone doing these crazy snatch balances. And I was asking you guys who has the best snatch balance in the world as a percentage of the world record. And she wanted to get involved in the action, so she worked up in the snatch balance. She hit 96 kilos, attempted 100, but wasn't quite able to make it. But, I mean, that's a pretty good percentage. 85 kilo snatch, 96 kilo snatch balance, about 115%. So, I mean, pretty decent from Fraer. Let's move across now to the USA, where we had a jerk party. And the jerk party started at Cal Strength. So Cal Strength has been lifting incredibly recently. If you're not following their YouTube channel, I think everybody in weightlifting follows it. But if you're not watching it at the moment, it's probably about time you started moving back over. The last episode that they posted, where they all maxed out, was really, really fun to watch. But during their last week of training, they all went up to a 1-rep max jerk, and the number of PRs was absolutely incredible. So to start things off, Nathan Damron, known for his leg strength, known for having been a former athlete of Mash Mafia, has now started lifting, well, has been for over half a year now, with Cal Strength. He just hit a 212 kilo PR in the jerk, which he's done after very minimal sort of comeback training, which is incredibly exciting. We then saw 49 kilo /55 when she doesn't want to cut. Madison Pannell hit 110 kilos, which is amazing. Madison is actually the person who I think we're going to see the greatest improvement from at Cal Strength. I'd be very surprised if we didn't see her on at least an international team at some point. Maybe not the world team quite yet, but she'll be on an international team soon. 110 for her. Wes hit 220, which, you know, we've seen him do over 230 in the past, but still looked very easy. Kelly Wild hit 120 kilos, which I think is a PR. She did that on the shoulder that she's had so many problems with recently. And then Chevy hit 190 kilos. So all in all, Cal Strength was just on an absolutely mad one with the jerk. But things aren't over with this overhead position. We're going to move over now to 64 kilo Matti Sassa, who hit 140 kilos in the jerk in training. Now, I think the most that we've seen from her in competition, I think we saw her do 130 kilos. She's basically over 120 every single time she competes. So this 140 is incredible. Now, I'm going to have to say that there's no way, at least in my opinion, that this jerk would pass in competition. The legs never lock out. They're continually just flexing and extending, keeping the bar oscillating. Doesn't take away from how impressive it is. I mean, there are athletes who get away with this on a slightly less obvious degree in competition. Obviously, Tian Tao is an obvious example. He does a little pre-dip. This one, I think, is a little bit more overt, so probably wouldn't get away with it. But apparently, Matti hit 135 kilos either before this in that session or on another day, and that looked totally legit. So it's fair to say that her lifting is absolutely on fire right now. So a quick little bit about Matti Sassa and where she sits in the Olympic rankings, because I know a lot of people are interested. Is she going to go or is she not? Well, she currently sits in 11th place in that 64 kilo category. Now, once we remove 4 of the lifters that sit above her, Hsing-chun, who's a 59, Chiu Sim, another 59, Huang Ting from China, a duplicate Chinese athlete because you're only allowed one from each country in each weight class, and Irina Lepsa from Romania, maybe a 59, maybe just a 64, who sits as the second athlete behind Loredana Toma. Then all of a sudden, Matti Sassa moves all the way up into 7th position, which gets her in the top 8. Top 8 get invites to the Olympics. However, we also then need to start looking at how many competitions has she's done, because she's only technically done 5 at this point, and it's unlikely there's going to be a 6th that she compete at. With that said, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some level of amendment to the Olympic qualifying process, hopefully nothing too egregious, but enough to allow athletes who didn't have a chance to get their 6th competition in to still be able to technically qualify. But then we have to look at the other women from Team USA who are also in that top 8, those qualifying positions. So we have Kate Nye. She's currently sitting 4th, but really that's 3rd because there are 2 Chinese athletes above her, one of whom we have to move. Then there's Jordan Dela Cruz in the 49 who sits in 6th, but really that's 4th because there are 3 Chinese weightlifters above her, 2 of whom we have to remove. Then there's Sarah Robles who sits in 6th, but really that's 4th, or maybe even 3rd if Tatiana leaves as well. And then there's Matty Rogers who's all the way up in 3rd. So right now, as it turns out, though Matti Sassa is going to end up in the top 8, she is still going to be the lowest ranked of those 5 weightlifters, assuming that nothing else happens, there are no other competitions, and they don't start just deciding to rearrange everything based on the single best performance, as some people within the IWF have suggested. Okay, let's carry on with the USA, and let's carry on with ridiculous jerks. This time, it's Meredith Alwyn. So last week she snatched 106 kilos. That was a PR for her. This week she hit 155 kilos in the front squat. That was I think something like a 4 kilo PR, and it moved fast. But then, more impressively, just ridiculously so, she jerked 150 kilos. She's a 71 kilo weightlifter. I mean, maybe she's weighing heavy. Maybe she's 76 right now. But even so, if she is a 71 kilo weightlifter, that's just 2 kilos under Zhang Wanli's world record of 152. If she's a 76, that's just 6 kilos under, again, Zhang Wanli's world record in that weight class of 156. If you didn't know by now, Zhang Wanli is the only athlete to hold world records in 2 separate weight classes. But that's just so ridiculously impressive for Meredith. I feel like the qualification process for 2024 can't come soon enough, because I really want to see what she's capable of doing, assuming she does what I hope she does and tries to qualify for Paris. And yes, I know we have to get through this Olympics first. Okay, and then finally from the USA, we have the big man himself. We have Kaiser Witt. Now, this week, Kaiser posted a ridiculous video. I mean, so we know that Kaiser's very strong. He snatched 190 kilos twice. I saw him hit, he was either 186 or 187 in person back in Switzerland. Could have been Switzerland. I don't know where we were. It was over a year ago. But this week, off blocks, 170 kilos for a power snatch plus snatch. So the rate of force production there to power 190, just 20 kilos under his best, from above the knee is ridiculous. He then hit a PR in the clean at 230 kilos, and then a very easy 280 kilo back squat double. So Kaiser is doing something right now. And that, guys, is the end of this main portion of the Weightlifting House news show, but go nowhere because we still have to do the people's lifts. And before we do that, I'm going to mention a few things once more. The first, if you want more podcasts, if you want more videos, if you want training programs, if you want a bunch of cool stuff, head over to the Weightlifting House Patreon page, and for the price of a mocha frappa latte chino every single month, you get all of these things. Also, as I mentioned earlier, I just uploaded a 30-minute video of me and Zach Tellender reacting to weightlifting videos on YouTube. We showed each other our favourite athletes. We showed each other the funniest lifts we've ever seen, the most impressive lifts. We watched Ilya, we watched Malagov, we watched funny Instagram people. That is all up on Patreon right now. Also, don't forget that the shoes, the Velasquez Strakes, are now available publicly on the European store. The American weightlifting shoes are now available publicly on the USA store. And on both stores, we have the 2021 Weightlifting House calendar. I'm going to give you a very quick sneak peek as to who's in it, but it's only going to be quick. I'm going to just move this towards the camera very quickly. Alright, I have no idea if that focused in time. I don't know if you were able to see who it was. Perhaps you can pause it, I don't know, do some ninja stuff and find out who's in it. But you can head over to weightliftinghouse.com, I'll put links down below, and find the stores, and you can get one of those. It's free shipping. Oh, and then of course, I almost forgot once again, we have the People's Coach t-shirt. Support Glenn Pendlay, support the guy who was the person who really helped build Weightlifting House with me, the person who gave me the inspiration, gave me the confidence that I could do something like this, and I'd love to see what he would think about it now if he could see it. But if you also got a lot out of Glenn, you learned a lot from him from those early Weightlifting House podcast days, then consider buying a t-shirt. Okay, let's head over now to the final portion of the show. It is the People's Lifts. If you want to feature on the People's Lifts, you just got to use the hashtag the People's Lifts and the hashtag Weightlifting House. I've had a few of you say to me, why isn't my lift being mentioned? Why haven't you mentioned me on this part of the podcast? And I've actually gone back and looked, and some of you know who you are. You aren't using the hashtags. I can't pick you. If you don't want to use the hashtags, that's absolutely fine, but I can't then put you on the podcast. We're going to start off this week with a truly exceptional weightlifter, maybe the kind of lifter who I should have put in the main portion of the show. Maybe she'll be there at some point soon. It's Mia Rhodes. Mia Rhodes, I'm going to go with. Now, Mia Rhodes, MIAA RHODESS on Instagram, competed. I think she's a I think she's maybe a junior lifter. Which one's junior? The one that goes up to 23. I don't know how old she is. I don't think she's a senior weightlifter. And she just competed, and I wanted to mention her because she kind of went through what a lot of weightlifters go through, which is bombing out on the snatch. She bombed out at 80 kilos, and despite I've seen her on her Instagram, she can hit more than that. But she bombed out. She then cried, and then she came back and she smashed 3 clean and jerks. She made 96 kilos in the clean and jerk for a competition PR. She is an American record holder. She's a state record holder. She's an incredible lifter. She must be a junior because she's not a senior American record holder. But I just thought that's like the classic story that everyone at some point goes through as a weightlifter. Bomb the snatch, and then it's how much perseverance do you have? Can you come back and clean and jerk a PR? And she could. So guys, go follow Mia Rhodes on Instagram at Mia with 2 A's, period, Rhodes with an H after the R, and 2 S's. Mia.Rhodes on Instagram. Next we have Felix at _A_Felix, Felix. He just went 100, 104 miss, 105 make, then 115, 120, 125 miss. So that's a 105, 120 competition. That's 225 in the total. He did it weighing 66 kilos, which is just mental. So if you want to follow a genuinely very talented lifter in the 67 kilo category, then go follow Felix at _A_Felix on Instagram. Next we have Joe Andrade. I'm going to go with Andrade, aka Olympiad A Joe. Maybe that's Olympia Dajo. It's Olympia, spelled Olympia, Dagoe, Olympia Dajo. Dajo. He just hit 405 pounds. I hate the pounds. I just hate the pounds. I guess he was lifting on pound plates. That's why it's 405 and 315. 405, hurts me to say it. Hip clean. A lot of arm bend in there. I'll be honest, it was a very, very CrossFit-y lift. Arm bend in the pocket. I'm almost wondering why I even picked this. But no, let's be honest, that's an incredible lift. 405, that's 184 kilos in the hip clean. 315 hip snatch. Hip snatch is a lot more weightliftery. That's a lot more weightliftery because that's actually a position that you get into. Hip clean, unless you have the smallest arms in the world, the hip clean isn't a position you actually get into. 315 is 145. So still, these are fantastic lifts. 145 hip snatch, 184 kilo hip clean. Guys, Joe Andrade is clearly incredibly strong. I might have taken the mick out of him, but go follow Olympia Dajo on Instagram. Okay, we have 2 more lifters left. The next is Laura Rose Caggiano, aka Laura_Cag with a double G, Laura_CAGG, and she wrote this. I call this, and this was referring to the lifts that she did. She said, I call this lifts I'm very proud of, but haven't made a post about because writing my dissertation has been consuming literally all of the energy, focus, and sanity that I haven't already reserved for weightlifting. I know all about that, not because I'm writing a PhD. I've never done a dissertation for a PhD, but my girlfriend is in the final month or 2 of doing hers. And so I understand the pressure, the focus, the energy, and the sanity, as Laura Rose Caggiano has put it, that it requires. So the fact that she was able to hit 73 kilos for a low hang snatch, 100 kilos behind the neck jerk, and a 139, I think it was a PR back squat, is mad. So guys, go follow one of the more talented people, someone who's good enough to do a PhD and good enough to be this good at weightlifting. It's Laura Rose Caggiano at Laura_Cag with a double G. And then finally we have Warren Nightingale, was_TBC, to be continued, to be concluded. I was just thinking if there's anything else. There's nothing else. There are probably lots of other things, but I'm not quick enough. He just posted a video of himself doing a ridiculous save. It's a save of the week, 94 kilo duck walk. And he did it at the end of the Snakes and Ladders protocol that Glenn Pendlay came up with. The protocol basically is you start at a certain weight. It's a way of auto-regulating where you're at in training, your recovery. And you start at a certain number, and it's very similar to an EMOM. You lift on a time schedule. If you make the lift, you add 3 kilos. If you miss the lift, you go down 5. You can work your way up closer to your competition best or your personal best. You can work your way down. And basically, very quickly within the workout, this protocol puts you right at the limit of what you're capable of any given day, auto-regulating how fatigued you are coming into the session. If you want to learn more about that, the Glenn Pendlay method, which you can see here, goes into all of that detail. And guys, that is absolutely everything. Head over to weightliftinghouse.com for all of your weightlifting goods. Head over to the Weightlifting House Patreon for all of your additional media goods. Head over to Virus International. Use discount code weightliftinghouse, all one word, all lowercase, for 10% off. Works in the USA, works in Europe. And that's probably about everything. Guys, hugely appreciate you all tuning in. And I'm going to catch you all on another episode of the Weightlifting House News Show.